plan to go wherever I can, to say whatever I can, to tell the world of the things that must be done.
Never.
To bring pressures to bear on some government. In order to
Never
save,
again
if possible,
shall it be
that country.
that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another.
Dispatch Live is focusing on several different business issues and businesses. Today we are talking about the information technology and the fourth industrial revolution.
As the world continues to advance, things become clearer and more accessible. Evolution in technology and science is the driving factor for such evolution. At the Eastern Cape Annual ICT Summit, we are advancing the digital transformation agenda through ICT infrastructure investment to deliver government services. From the 22nd to the 24th of November, do not miss out on the 16th Annual ICT Summit at the East London International Convention Centre. See you there.
My name is Ted Keenan. Stay tuned for more.
This is the Daily Dispatch podcast with your business correspondent, Ted Keenan.
Today Dispatch Live is talking to
Motse Mfuleni, the son of the Eastern Cape.
and, as you described yourself, an ICT evangelist. Has ITC always been an interest in your life?
You know, never actually, Ted. From childhood, my mind was on ministry, literally, a bit of pastoring, and as well as lecturing theology. That's really my background, and I say that my role in ICT now is really God's work.
Well, you certainly have made an impression. And before we get on to the ICT aspect, perhaps you can tell us about Motse and Friends.
Ted, this is a concept that, you know, Ted, we're doing events in different parts of the country. I was born in a township. There has been some changes in the township from infrastructure. I used to stay in a dusty street, it's a tarred road now, there's running water and electricity. But you still find that in terms of lifestyle facilities, there's no restaurants, there are no hotels. And most of the events that we hosted around the world are in hotels, in upmarket restaurants. What I then felt was that access to information, you could not find it in the township. And I felt that young people were stranded from accessing information outside of what they get on the net and what they get in the newspapers, but they really don't meet their heroes in person. And I have this vast network of business friends that I thought that we can bring to the township and have these roundtable discussions about personal upliftment. And it worked well in PE year 1, year 2, and eventually decided to take it to other parts of the Eastern Cape, and it was a great success.
The aspect of the upskilling of the youth and the fact that you are taking seasoned business people to the youth, how did the young people embrace that?
Phenomenal. I was actually surprised by the turnout. I mean, in some, the taverns we used, we had 80, 120 turnout. I'm a product of mentorship, being developed by role models, seeing closer people who've made a positive difference in life. And we could see it in the eyes of the young people and some of the adults and guys who retired who don't know what to do with their money, right? And they've suddenly retired or they've been retrenched, they're sitting with this amount of money, they don't know what to do with it, because they worried that when they are 70, 80, they may be financially stranded. To see hunger in their eyes, in the question and answer session that the guys are asking specific questions. Remember, Ted, we did it year 1, year 2, so year 2 it also becomes like a feedback session in terms of the experiences of year 1 and the usefulness of the interaction in year 1. So it was well received, and in fact, during COVID, I was even asked, are we not going to do it? Because COVID, at least that period, You could have 50% capacity of venues. But we're going back to do it because there's still great demand to bring people who've done well for themselves closer to those who still are behind in terms of access to opportunities.
Motse, before we started the recording, we spoke about Lincoln Marley, and I think both of us are something of disciples of
Yes.
Lincoln Marley.
Yes, definitely.
What do you see about Marley that is so good for South Africa?
You know, firstly, I must say that I've been very special to have been in projects with him, mostly during COVID, and been in touch with him to support similar leaders like him that have passed on because of COVID. And it was really an honor, firstly, to understand his sense of purpose and his understanding that he comes from a very good family, the Mali family. He's a good family, mostly in cricket and in sport. But his whole issue about ethical leadership, what do we do to ethically do things right for the country and make sure that we talk truth to power where it matters and make sure that we leave the country a better place than we found it, most especially around values, around leadership, and around making sure that we occupy our space meaningful in society. I follow Lincoln well in social media. You must see some of his posting around young people that he works with, and that's exactly what South Africa needs. Lincoln Marley has a big voice because most of the people in government now are people that were his peers in the struggle days, so to speak. And so he uses that authority and that voice very well for the proper development and the running of the country, which I think is an excellent thing.
He launched his book, which again we both read in a weekend, but he launched his book in East London 6-8 weeks ago, and he launched it, strangely enough, at the International Convention Centre, where you will be running your event, and we'll talk about the event a bit later. But the amazing thing was they'd set out a room and they had probably 50 chairs, and the event organizer came in and said, listen, just bring in the chairs. And I think they probably ended up with 150 people sitting, many standing, and they had a pile of books there that were sold out in like 25 minutes.
Goodness, that's
and I hadn't really known much about Lincoln Marley, but when I saw the light that he created in people's eyes, it was inspiring in itself. Let's move on from Lincoln. Your Imbizo Group.
Yes.
Can you tell us the foundations of the Imbizo Group and where it started and where it's going?
Imbizo Group was born out of community media, and people always laughed at this thing because they don't put the connections. I'm a product of community media. At some stage in my life, I was asked to assist the sales and back end for a community radio station that used to be called Ubuntu FM. It was the first one that was isiXhosa language in the PE context then, late 90s. And so I started working in the department. You know, like when you sell advertising, you get to meet promoters and guys organizing events and conferencing. And the guys that are coming from outside PE may not know where to do the promotional activities, what are the right spots. So we would then be asked to assist the companies coming to do marketing at Ubuntu FM. In the process, I felt, I got to love and enjoy the events part of the business. I remember one year I was asked, because the MC who was supposed to pitch up for this particular event missed his flight, and it was a big jazz event with big names. And the guy said to me, no, you speak well, you know, why don't you try it? Can you believe it? And the rest, they say the rest is history. Yeah. So I answered this event. I mean, I was a lighty. Then you dance in the audience. The mayor of that time, Mr. Fako, was in the big names there. Yeah. But by God's grace, I stumbled my way through, and the feedback was great. So I then started getting requests, can you assist us with this? So I felt that maybe I was good at something. Let me start building something, to your typical garage growth from home,
Yeah.
build it up organically. So that's what we started doing. So we started with the Imbizo events, which was the events business. So when we started, we were just doing, because guys who normally come from a radio station, like guys who are either there's a jazz concert, or there is in today's language, I'm a piano DJ coming to town for students. So I started getting involved in that sort of stuff. But I think because of my strong Christian foundation, some of the events I had discomfort in putting them together. And I literally prayed about it. Literally, that Lord, I love this sector, but I don't know how to pursue. I don't see myself standing in class throughout the night, and there are all these activities that don't talk to my nervous system. Something happened, and it said there is nobody in that time in the Kabeja area who was focused on business events. Prior to being in the radio station, I'd gone to Bible school. From Bible school, I then went to work in clothing retail, where I got corporate exposure, understanding how business works, how the business environment works, and I started doing business events. In the business event sector, we did all sorts of events. Then later, we then niched to ICT events. And as they say, the rest was history. So the little money we made from the events industry, we saved it, we built other companies from that money. So what is now called Inviso Events is a product of savings. So we literally put at 30%. I'm Christian, so I do at 10% tithing. And it's so-called black tax. I must give my mom something, because I was the son, I must support my brothers that are working. But I reserve a 10% for growth. And I think that has really helped us to build the business that we've built now.
There is a concern that the fourth industrial revolution, the growth in ICT is in fact leaving certainly the rural youth behind, and it's creating a them and us gap. What are your feelings about that?
Ted, I fully agree. I think it was last week on Facebook I wrote a post, and my comment was that, and it was Eastern Cape specific, and I said that the young people in Kabeja and Buffalo City area are more privileged, even if they stay in Tanzania or Motherwell or Zweden, compared to a same age group youngster that's sitting for grade 12 exams that's in the modern. That's then when you see the disparity, that when they must sit and do biology studies, my family members in Zweden can still go to town and maybe see whatever hotspot environment that there is there and be able to download the study guides, or can go to a place and get the study guides that are available for free on some of the telco networks for your, never alone the one that stays in the suburb, just the township one. But if you compare access, the one in the township and the one in the rural areas, the gap is too huge. So I then said, if we do not make deliberate plans to resolve the matter, history will judge us harshly, because we will feel it in the skills throughput that the system gives us later on in life. Either you're going to have a flight, or you're going to have young people who sit in rural areas but who have no future, because just access to the internet is a serious barrier for entry.
Any solutions?
I think what we're doing, for example, with the ICT Summit, and Ted, I don't want us to be ahead of our conversation, is really one block of that building process to bring top executives in the Eastern Cape environment to talk about this thing. If you look at the ICT Summit, the type of CEOs that are there, these are people who matter. They influence budgets in terms of infrastructure spend, whether you're talking companies that are focused on rural ICT infrastructure, where you cannot trench for fiber, you must use satellite or VSAT for people to access internet, or those that can trench like it's happening in Tanzania areas, so that you roll out fiber. Because until we bring everybody who matters around the table, and or we only talk to ourselves, we are not going to really solve the real issues, because these are budget issues, these are planning issues, These are issues that must fit in the strategic objectives of those companies that are in the ICT space focusing in a province like the Eastern Cape.
There are several hospitals that operate by having a surgeon on one end of the line and the people doing the operation on the other end of the line, and that is possible. A company in East London is doing a similar thing with education, where they are taking professors, high quality academics, and effectively in old language beaming their lecture into a rural area where there are, if there's a big hall, 300-400 kids in the hall, and everybody can see what's going on. The role of the teacher has not been diminished in that there are several teachers in the room, so discipline is tight. And it surprises me, and I'm far from an expert, it surprises me that we are not doing more of that. Having one person teaching 300 people. Is that something that you guys look at all?
You know what we did at TED? One of the success factors of the ICT Summit was to take some of the problems, statements that come out of the summit, and then build other conversations around it. So in the 15 years of the summit, we developed an initiative called the e-learning summit. So the e-learning summit, I think now next year it will be on its 5th year. It's a product of the ICT Summit. So it's specifically focused on how we provide learning rurally in terms of making sure that learners are able to sit in a math and science class and listen to a presentation that's being done in East London, right? But those learners are sitting in Lebode, they're probably sitting in Motherwell, or they're even sitting somewhere in Kayevicha or Duncan Village. So we then brought the stakeholders such as the publishers, the people who bring content that is accredited by Department of Basic Education. Then you bring the cell phone companies that put the content on devices, so that there's a language used called zero rated. Youngsters can access that content and not be charged for it. Then the other element we did was, live streaming became popular during COVID. We've been pushing live streaming prior COVID for the benefit of learning, exactly that. So there's a company here in East London that's doing exceptionally well, that's providing e-learning technology. We work with that company. It's at the summit again this year. But what that company only does not only focus on e-learning in that conversation, Ted, we bring e-health in it. So you've got Makulu, who's at Frere Hospital. There are limited specialists in a particular medical space, and Makulu has this problem. But there's a specialist that's sitting at Umtata Medical hospital, Tata Academy, the Nelson Mandela Academic Hospital, and it's got the same medical capacity to respond to Makulu's problem. So what the doctors do, they beam, they share the X-ray information, real-time Ted, right? And they're able to have some medical diagnosis of how Gogo should be helped, what treatment should be, prescribed for Gogo. So these are things that we developing.
Welcome to the 16th Annual ICT Summit 2022. as we're advancing the digital transformation agenda through ICT infrastructure investment to deliver government services in South Africa. We bring exhibition, ICT Academy, Golf Day, Gala Dinner, and cocktail function, as well as entertainment. Do not miss out from the 22nd to the 24th of November 2022 at the East London International Convention Centre. Be there and find out more on our website www.ictsummit.co.za, as well on our social media.
So the webinars really helped to get these young people to some information. You know, the early days of all of us learning how to do the live streaming thing. Please unmute, please mute, take your video off, immersing bandwidth. So we also just great to see people that we've been seeing, you know, in video format. So it really, really helped. But as everybody now knew, you can do events. I mean, there were all sorts of things. There were prayer groups online. There were work groups online. I think we eventually got a bit of fatigue because everybody was just sending out an invite for something, and all of them were in the evenings, you know. So, but the fulfillment out of it, Ted, was that at least we kept the conversation going, which is a very, very important thing, is that we keep people talking. And in some instances, for others, it was therapy. You know, that I can talk, that I'm battling with my business. I've got staff that are working for me. I don't know what to do. You remember when they introduced the UIF story? It sounded nice on television, but when you go to those Department of Labor offices, it was tough. Yeah. Those forms and those requirements. And people could ventilate and talk about these things in follow-up discussion, try to bring relevant stakeholders to respond. So that's what we did.
You know, I think that was a great stopgap, but the power of something like the summit, where you are sitting as we're sitting face to face, you're shaking hands with people, there's no more fist pumps or elbow pumps, yes, etc. I think that's got to be the most powerful thing of getting people together.
Yes.
They bounce ideas off each other, and I'm sure you're seeing that at the summit.
Definitely. You know, at the summit we've got hashtag is in isiXhosa Mehlamadala, meaning long time no see.
Yeah.
So we bring some reunion energy. I'm looking forward to see you. There's a build up in meeting, you know. Some of the participants of the summit are from East London. They usually meet in malls, in church, in school kids events and stuff like that. But the broader, delegate a portfolio of the summit, which comes from different parts of the country, is just looking forward to physically meet in East London and engage, enjoy our beachfront, enjoy the energy of conversations and hug for a change, you know, and have coffee and a proper discussion. And I think that's what is driving us to go back and meet and have an excellent conversation set for the summit next week.
Just as a slight side issue, the International Convention Centre has had its best year ever, because people are tired of COVID, and when they're setting up, as you set up the summit, the attendance is massive.
It's phenomenal.
And it's lovely to see.
Yes, yes. I was talking, Ted, to one of because we spread the summit to be a business around East London, so that at least other companies also benefit. Our service providers for some of the services are saying, we've even forgotten you, we're just quickly finishing this event, we'll talk to you on Friday. That's how busy now the environment is, which is very encouraging.
Absolutely. What's the next step as far as the summit goes for you?
The summit, Ted, has to continue influencing other provinces to have similar conversations, so that we decentralize the conversation. The big summits that happen in your big provinces, Gauteng, KZN, and the Western Cape are national and are expensive to attend for the locals. I mean, there's a big one that happens, I won't mention the name, in Cape Town just recently now. It's an international summit. You pay in dollars to attend. When you do the conversions in South African rands, only big corporates can afford to go. Young entrepreneurs must have access through some accreditation via an industry association for them to attend. So we want to bring them to provinces, and you won't believe which province has asked us to have them. Gauteng. There's a Gauteng delegation coming to East London with the question, tell us how to do it. Can you believe it? So that's for us is the big thing. So we've got one going on. We've helped Limpopo, because Limpopo is a similar province to us, small and rural. It's got those things disparities we were talking about earlier on, the countryside being left behind, sharing information. We've now helped Mpumalanga to do the same. So now there's a Gauteng delegation. Because it's very important that in the current era we decentralize information so that all of us, we are inside and no one is left behind. That's the first thing. We want to continue with research now. So we now bringing a big research element. Almost like what the guys do with the World Economic Forum.
Yes.
We've got all these world leaders that come, a lot of information and presentations get shared. That's data. What do you then do with that data after the summit? So we've now partnered with EXAC here, which is the Eastern Cape backbone for data, for planning, to really begin to do some research stuff together, so that the presentations, they don't get lost in December after the summit. They are put in a system, the programs that are planned, and some research work. That research can then be distributed to models for planning, for budgeting, and understanding their realities on the ground. So we're going big now on research. The third thing we want to continue to do is to really try and assist government technocrats, because we find that big companies have access to big HR and training budgets. So they can go to business schools to look at the new trends. They can travel to international conferences. A guy in provincial government, let alone local government, in provincial government, has to go through budget red tapes for him to go upscale himself. And as we were joking earlier on, ICT trends, you no longer look at 5 years now. You look at the next 5 minutes, the next 5 weeks, the next 5 months.
Yes.
So if you had, when you graduated then in Beacon Science, you did some short-term courses, probably expired information, but you've got the responsibility to connect communities. So we want to do that. But also, when we assist in the upskilling of government technocrats, you also protect a situation where private sector dumps technology that cannot be used. That's been a problem.
Yes.
Right? So you find government, they spend so much money bringing in hardware and technology, and what worked somewhere in California, the proof of concept was done there, it may not work anymore there, because the landscape is completely different. But if that technocrat from public sector is not well equipped and upskilled, he has no means to know that this is genuine for my strategic objectives, which either come from a political boss's elections manifesto or the strategic objectives of that particular government, in our instance, the Eastern Cape government. One of the things now happening to that extent, provincial government in the Eastern Cape, you remember the drama about the plagiarized ICT strategy. You remember that big drama?
Yes.
So now they've taken that document, threw it in the rubbish bin. They're going back to the ICT Summit to say, let's talk to you about how to do it. So there's a new document that's been put together now. Government has been working well with it, with stakeholders, but it's now brought to the summit to say, this is a draft strategy, have a look at it, this is where we want to go, please give us some input. So these are the powerful things that we want to do, because some of the things, for them to happen, policy must support them. Government mandates must support them. And the strategy then becomes a very important tool to make sure that these things are. So those are the big things. Then the last one is to bring young people with us from rural, township and suburban young people into the conversation. We don't want to discriminate amongst young people. Bring everybody involved. Today, for example, the summit starts with the hackathon. So today is the first closed session for youngsters. We're doing a hackathon with CITRAC at Cortex Hub, and the discussion is around electric vehicles, EVs.
Yeah.
So these youngsters are being asked to look at EV solutions for the context of the Eastern Cape. And the automotive industry in the Eastern Cape has been invited to participate to see a conversation working with AIDC, the body that coordinates the sector for the country. So these are things that we must do, because we must not wait until the solutions are produced, then we just consume them. We've got to get ourselves at development stages. We've got to get ourselves at manufacturing stages, so that we just don't go in a place and buy the hardware that's probably produced in China, Germany or the US, and miss the opportunity that we would have built a pool of young people in the issue. This is why the education system is very important in the equation, so that we recruit young people to do maths, science and engineering, and we make it fun. I still fight. Maybe I went to focus on theology, maybe I should have done maths, but maths in the township was seen as an elite. It's for the clever ones, you know. And probably I fumbled out. Maybe when I was doing in our era, standard 8, people would have mastered maths, they would have dealt with the khafar. So you want the maths khafar to be taken away, so that young people, they think it's fun to do maths. So the other thing we're doing now, as we build the future, we bring grade 10 learners into the summit. And we're working with Professor Keenan to help them do coding classes. Now this is now during the summit, because we want to bring the fun element. Then youngsters can say, no man, my mother doesn't have to be a doctor for me to do maths. Even if my mother was a domestic worker, I can do maths. It's not for a certain class, as in the past. Not class in color terms. Remember in the township, we were all together. Yes. But we felt that the smart ones can do maths. Me, I'm going to do maybe agriculture or something like that.
Motse, you mentioned fun quite a few times. Dispatchers are a lot of fun talking to you today.
Thank
Good
you
luck
so much.
for the summit, and thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Ted, and it's great to be the first one and interviewed by the legend like yourself. And I must really, in your 50 years, salute you for how you've adopted technology throughout the generation. So it's not true that legends like you don't adopt a technology. We're doing podcasts now. I've not seen a pen. You're writing the interview, and you're doing it the way it is, having a good, fun conversation.
Thank you very much for the praise. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dad.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today on our podcast. I hope that all the facts that came tumbling out are useful to you.